Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and Pokemon fans of the world, it is MegaCrasher coming at you guys back again, once again, with a pro level of hype, and I want to welcome you guys back to our next Pokemon competitive review. Now, what we're going to be doing here in this video, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to be reviewing Sandslash in its entirety, as well as Alolan Sandslash. Now, even though these Pokemon are virtually the same, we have to treat them differently as such, given the fact that even though these Pokemon are related to each other, they are completely different when it comes to things like its typing, ability, stats, moves, everything. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the video, then please be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you guys are new here to the channel, then please be sure to subscribe for more videos like these if you enjoy. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's break down regular Sandslash first. We take a look at the typing. It is going to be a pure and clean ground typing. Now, this typing is actually pretty good defensively and offensively too, you know what I'm saying? So, first things first, right off the bat, it's going to have an immunity to electric, which is really good, and it's going to have a resistance to poison and rock, and it's especially good that it's going to have a rock resistance, given the fact that it's going to resist stealth rocks whenever it switches in. So, it's basically a rock type entry hazard that damages Pokemon according to their rock type weaknesses and resistances. However, ladies and gentlemen, we speak about weaknesses. We take a look at the weaknesses here. It's weak to grass, ice, and water. Three very, very common offensive types. So please be sure to be on the lookout for that. So we then take a look at its abilities. The first of which it gets is known as Sand Rush. Now, Sand Rush is actually a very, very good ability, especially when it is paired with a Sandstorm user, because what this does is it doubles your speed under the effects of Sandstorm, which is very, very, very amazing, and can very easily turn this Pokemon into a very threatening sweeper if you allow for it the chance to set up. Now, its second ability is known as Sand Veil, a very, very less desirable ability. I'm just going to say this much. Now, Sand Veil by itself isn't that bad of an ability, but here's the thing, is that what Sand Veil does is it increases your evasion by 25% under the effects of Sandstorm. Now, even though evasion is good and all that stuff, the thing is, you definitely want to go for Sand Rush, because that's going to be the ability that guarantees the boost and guarantees the effectiveness, so that way you get the most out of your ability and get the bang for your buck that you need, you know what I'm saying? So with that being said, let's take a look at the stats right here. So we got 75 on the HP, coupled with 110 on the defense and 55 on the special defense. So, I mean, it's not exactly that good special defensively, but it's actually pretty good defensively, you know? Even though this Pokemon doesn't have access to any recovery moves and all that stuff, this Pokemon defensively can take hits when you need it to the most. And to back it up even further, it's got base 100 attack, which is just absolutely respectable and really decent. Also, given the fact that this Pokemon has access to Swords Dance as well, that 100 base attack stat can actually be quite threatening. Now, we're not even going to worry about the base 45 special attack. You're just do yourself a favor. Don't ever use special attack moves on Sandslash. It'd be a complete waste, okay? So we then take a look, last but not least, at the speed. It sits at a rather low base 65. Now, here's the thing, is that numerically, it may seem rather low. I mean, base 65 isn't like super bad, but I mean, it's no base 100 speed, you know? Base 100 speed is typically the benchmark that you want to go for when it comes to considering speedy threats. Now, here's the thing, is that you want to talk about speed, well then just pair that thing with Sand Rush, you know, and you're good to go. Pair it with a Sandstorm user, and bam! You're going to have double the speed right off the bat, set up a Swords Dance, and then proceed to sweep, baby. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's move on to Alolan Sandslash. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so now we are here to talk about Alolan Sandslash. Now, this Pokemon right here is vastly different when it comes to, like, pretty much everything competitive about it, you know? Just the only thing that's similar about it is the fact that, you know, Sandslash, right? Like, that's basically the only similarity that it has, and I suppose its design is also very similar as well, but look at this, guys. Ice and Steel. A very, 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 very interesting typing, to say the least. So, right off the bat, you have an immunity to poison, and you have a 4 times resistance to ice, which is just absolutely fantastic. And you have resistances to the likes of Bug, Dragon, Fairy, Flying, Grass, Normal, and Psychic. So, I mean, this Pokemon right here resists a crap ton of stuff, you know? Now, here's the thing, is that this is where the fun ends because, well, here's the thing. You are weak to ground-type moves, and you have a 4 times weakness to both fighting and fire. So just do yourself a favor and stay the hell away from users of those moves if you can, you know? But here's the thing, is that even though Ice is a really bad defensive typing, when you pair it with Steel, you know, you take a look at the resistances. It's still a pretty good chunk of resists that you end up resisting. Or I should say some types that you end up resisting, you know? Like, you've got a total of 9 types that you have resistances / immunities for. So, you know, despite the fact that you have 2 4 times weaknesses and a weakness to ground, it's still a really good typing that allows for you to take hits defensively and be a possible tank here, you know what I'm saying? So we then take a look at the abilities. The first of which it gets is Slush Rush. Now, here's the thing, is that we have a very similar sort of function when it comes to the ability. Now, what this does is it boosts your speed by 2 stages when you are under the effects of Hail. So, you know, like Sand Rush for regular Sandslash, Slush Rush is going to boost your speed by 2 stages when it comes to Hail, which is really good. And then we get Snow Cloak, which is an ability that works like Sand Veil, but only the difference is that it works for Hail. So what this does is it essentially boosts your evasion by 25% under the effects of Hail, which is, like I said, you know, not that bad of an ability, but when you stack it up to Slush Rush, it kind of sucks. So we then take a look at the stats right here. Now, we have some significant changes right here. So first things first, base 75 on the HP, very respectable. Base 120 on the defense, and base 65 on the special defense. So as we're seeing right here, ladies and gentlemen, this Pokemon has some added bulk to it, which is really, really good. Now, the base 100 attack is the same as its, or I should say, as its Cantonian counterpart, regular Sandslash, and we have base 65 on the speed. So, I mean, you know, they have the same offensive stats. Now, of course, the base 25 special attack, just, you really, really don't want to use that. Otherwise, you're going to end up looking like a clown when you end up using special attacks on Alolan Sandslash. I mean, you can do it if you want. I mean, if you want the lulls and all that stuff, that's up to you. But, I mean, if you want to win matches, then you might want to consider doing it right. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and let's navigate our way to Pokemon Showdown. And I'll show you guys some sets that you can use for Sandslash and Alolan Sandslash. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so now that we're here on Pokemon Showdown Live, I'm going to be showcasing you guys some sets that you can use for Sandslash and Alolan Sandslash. Kicking things off, we're going to be going over regular Sandslash first. So we have ourselves an all-out offensive Sand Rush set. You most definitely want to use this set in conjunction with a Sandstorm user. So first things first, we take a look at the item. We're going to be using the Groundium Z, which allows for you to turn Earthquake into its Z version, which is going to turn into a very powerful Tectonic Rage. And I just gotta say that that right there is what's going to make this Pokemon especially dangerous, because you have a one-time ground-type nuke. That's gonna hurt something like hell. It's gonna be crazy. So we're gonna be going with the Groundium Z, not to mention also it can't be knocked off, so it kind of makes knockoff a little bit less effective against Sandslash. So the Sand Rush ability is what we're going to be using. We're not even going to be worrying about Sand Veil. Sand Rush is most definitely going to want to be the ability of choice regardless of how you run your Sandslash. So the first move that we got is going to be the centerpiece here of this set. It's known as Earthquake. It's a very respectable base 100 power move, and still to this date, it is one of the best moves in the history of Pokemon. I mean, how many of you guys remember back in the Gen 1 days where, like, you were really excited that you got to teach a Pokemon Earthquake, or that it learned Earthquake or something like that, and you just spam Earthquake for the win, spam Hyper Beam and all that stuff, and you would be unstoppable, you know? But, you know, times have changed, you know, Hyper Beam kind of sucks, but Earthquake has stood the test of time. And still to this day, like I said, one of the best moves in the history of Pokemon. So you most definitely got to go with Earthquake if you can learn it, you know? So coming up next, we have ourselves Stone Edge. Now, Stone Edge is a very powerful base 100, almost called it base 90. No, it's base 100 rock type move. Now, it does have an 80% accuracy, which means it does have a chance to miss, but you definitely want to run Stone Edge because you want to have that power, you know what I'm saying? And plus, with Earthquake and Stone Edge, it is really, really tough to resist that combination. You gotta be something like a Bronzong or something like that to resist both of those moves, you know? And by resisting, I'm talking about being immune to Earthquake if you have Levitate and all that stuff, right? But see, with that being said, coming up next, we have ourselves Sword Stance, which is going to boost your attack stat by 2 stages. So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You boost up that base 100 attack, and you start sweeping face, you know? And last but not least, speaking of Bronzong, well, Bronzong, you ain't going to appreciate that knockoff, son, now are ya? Now, here's the thing. Knockoff, really solid base 65 power move. It is Dark type, and it gets a 50% boost in power if you manage to knock off a held item of your opponent. So, I mean, we got a little bit of utility going on right there, as well as a really powerful Dark type move. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at the EVs and the nature. We're going to be going with an Adamant nature here because, you know, I want to have as much power as possible. Now, you can go for Jolly if you want, which is going to boost your speed even further if we go ahead and let's just go ahead and put in the Jolly nature, and look at that, 251 speed, so you're going to be hitting well over 500 speed with Sand Rush in effect, which is going to be very, very amazing, although it does take away from your attack stat quite a bit, but it's really up to you. You can run Adamant Nature if you want to have slightly more power, or you can run Jolly Nature if you want to have slightly more speed under the effects, especially of Sand Rush. Now, the EVs goes real simple like this. It is 252 EVs in the attack and 252 EVs into the speed. Now, we got 4 into special defense because reasons, right? I mean, you can put it anywhere. I mean, those 4 IVs ain't gonna do anything for you, so you might as well just put them somewhere, right? So, coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to try a more defensive approach when it comes to Sandslash. Now, what we got going on here, it is going to be a physical tank of sorts. Now, what we got going on when it comes to the item, it is going to be Rocky Helmet. God, I absolutely love this item. Rocky Helmet, definitely one of the best items in history. Like, I gotta say, they definitely did us a favor when it came to introducing Rocky Helmet. Now, what this does is it actually ends up making the opponent lose 1/6 of their health if they were to use a contact move against you, which is really, really good. Now, Sand Rush, gonna obviously be the ability for choice. Now, the first move that we got is gonna be Earthquake, because you want to have a ground type stab that's gonna do a decent amount of damage. So, next up, we have ourselves Knockoff. This is where, you know, you want to use it more of like a utility rather than an offensive move. Now, of course, you know, it's still really good offensively, and even though you're not running, you know, any attack investment really in this set, which I'll get into in a moment, Knockoff is still really good to have. Now, what you can do, ladies and gentlemen, is you can actually change it up a little bit. You can actually add something like, say, Stealth Rock on there if you want to be like a Stealth Rock setup. And have, you know, even more of a utility slash support kind of aspect for this set. You can do that if you want. I personally would go for Knockoff, but Stealth Rock is good if you don't have a Stealth Rocker on your team. Now, coming up next, we've got Rapid Spin. Rapid Spin, oh man, it's what makes this set great, okay, is Rapid Spin. Like, what do you call a Pokemon that can set up entry hazards and spin them away? You call them a damn good utility Pokemon is what you do, right? So Rapid Spin not only does a little bit of damage, we can actually scroll up here. Like, look at that. It's base 20 power, it's normal type, but here's the thing, is that it gets rid of all the entry hazards that your opponents try to set up against you. So Rapid Spin, definitely a must-have. And last but not least, I decided to throw in something like Toxic, so that way, you know, if you have Pokemon that try to switch in on you and threaten you and all that stuff, or you can predict a switch and all that stuff, then you can go for something like Toxic, and that's what's going to put them on a timer. And the thing is that this move right here progressively gets worse and worse for the opponents the longer they stay in, right? So, we go to the Eevee Spread. We're going to be going for an Impish nature here to reduce the special attack and increase the defense. Now, we get to the investment. We're going to want to run max investment in the HP and in the defense, and you take a look at these stats right here. They're actually really respectable, and you'd be surprised as to the sort of hits that you can take from Pokemon with an investment like this. And obviously, we're going to put the rest into its attack now. If you want, like if you want to tailor this set to, you know, be able to 2-KO a certain Pokemon, then you can go for something like this, like he can reduce the defense and, you know, maybe add more into the attack or something like that, just to have a bit more of an offensive presence, even though you're more of a defensive utility set. You know, it's really up to you. That would just be my recommendation right here. Like, if you want to tinker around with the EVs, then you can do something like that, or you can, you know, just go all out and run max HP, max defense, things like that. You can run it as a fast bulky support if you want, with a Jolly Nature, with max speed and max HP, something like that, you know, so that way you can kind of get the jump on your opponents, you know. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I also kind of want to go over some other moves that it can utilize, such as Brick Break. You want to have that good fighting-type crushing power? Well, go for something like Brick Break. Or if you want to go for something like Focus Punch, then you can do something like that, right? Now, of course, with Focus Punch, you're most definitely going to want to run Substitute, because the problem is with Focus Punch is that it's going to fail on you if the opponent is to hit you in that same turn that you lock it up and you're tightening your focus and you want to just absolutely punch him in the face with that Focus Punch, right? So I would definitely recommend something like Substitute in combination with Focus Punch. Now, let's see what else we got going on here. So you go for something like Hone Claws if you want. Now, Hone Claws, even though it only boosts your attack set by one stage, does boost your accuracy by one stage as well. So, I mean, that means that it's guaranteed that Stone Edge will not miss after a Hone Claws boost. Go for something like that. Go for something like Poison Jab if you want to have offense against fairies and grass-type moves, or a Pokemon, I should say. You go for something like Shadow Claw if you want to have consistent ghost-type damage and all that stuff. Go for something like Rock Slide if you want, you know, which is going to have a 30% chance to flinch your opponents should you outspeed them and all that stuff. So it's really up to you. Ooh, it actually gets Super Fang up in this. So Super Fang might actually be a really good move to use on a set like this, like, you know, a defensive or slash utility set. You know, like, you can run something like, well, let's just actually do this on the spot here. So you could have something like Super Fang, you could have something like Toxic, and, you know, just kind of wear those down, wear the opponents down, I should say. You know, use those two moves over and over again, and, you know, just go from there, right? Like, go for Super Fang, go for Earthquake, things like that, right? Have Rapid Spin and all that stuff, you know, for your entry hazard support and all that stuff, and have Toxic, and, you know, just be good to go and all that stuff, right? You know, they're just some ideas I thought I'd throw around on the spot. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and let's move on to Alolan Sandslash when it comes to the movesets. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so coming up next, we have ourselves Alolan Sandslash. Now, this set functions very similarly to this set right here. The main principle is going to be utilizing a Z Crystal. So what we got going on is the Icicle Z, and you're definitely going to want to pair this with Icicle Crash, which is going to turn it into Sub-Zero Slammer, I believe. And it's gonna hurt like hell, but, you know, we'll get into that shortly. So, Icicle Z, definitely the item of choice here in this situation. Plus, Z Crystals can't be knocked off, to reiterate. And we're gonna be going for Slush Rush the entire time we are using Sandslash here. So, with that, you're definitely going to want to run a Hail user, so that way Slush Rush can be of good use. So the first move that we got, it's going to be Swords Dance, so that way you can boost your attack stat by 2 stages. Icicle Crash. Icicle Crash is really freaking awesome, because this is a base 85 power Ice-type move with a 30% chance to flinch. Now, it does have 90 accuracy, which means that it can miss, but I mean, the thing is that when this move hits, it's going to hurt. And when you pair it with Icicle Z, it turns it into a 1-type Ice-type nuke, you know what I'm saying? So, with that said, coming up next, we have ourselves Iron Head. This also has a 30% chance to flinch your opponents with a respectable base 80 power. It's a steel move, and it's got 100% accuracy. So, I mean, there's no way that it can miss, unless, of course, that there's like some crazy shenanigans going on, like you lose accuracy, or, you know, if there's like some sort of evasion hacks or something like that, then, you know, you really got nothing to worry about when it comes to Iron Head missing. Now, last but not least, I decided to go for something like Earthquake to kind of round off the set right here, because, you know, Ice and Ground type moves by themselves offer tremendous amount of type coverage. Now, with that being said, you know, you can switch moves around if you want. You can go for something like Brick Break, you know, you can even go for something like Aqua Tail. You know, Aqua Tail is actually really, really interesting on Alolan Sandslash. But, you know, there's just so much moves that you can utilize on this Pokemon that it makes this Pokemon surprisingly and effectively versatile. So we then go to the Eevee Spread right here. We're going to be going for a Jolly nature in this situation. Of course, you can go for Adamant if you want. You want to have a little bit more attack, then you can go for Adamant. You want to have a little bit more speed, then go for Jolly and all that stuff. Either way, you know, we're going to be reducing the special attack because we're definitely not going to need the special attack. Like, look at that. That's just pitiful right there. 77, no thanks. So when it comes to the Eevee Spread right here, you're definitely going to want to have max on the attack and max on the speed with 252 apiece, and throw the rest into like defense or HP or something like that. Really doesn't matter, just as long as you invest in the attack and the speed, max it out, all that good stuff. And there's really nothing more to say about this set, so let's go ahead and let's move on to the next set here. Now, this set is going to function very, very similarly to this set right here, but we're going to be carrying leftovers, so that way you can have a little bit of recovery at the end of each turn. Now, you can go for Rocky Helmet if you want. So that way, it's going to be kind of like a deterrent to physical attackers if they try to use a contact move on you, things like that. But leftovers, definitely going to be the item of choice right here, because what this does is it allows for you to have some, you know, residual HP recovery. You recover 1/16 of your health at the end of each turn. Now, Slush Rush kind of goes without saying, is going to be the ability of choice. So the first move that we got is going to be Toxic. Now, Toxic is going to be a really good status move against Pokemon that try to switch in on you and try to stall you out, things like that. Go for Toxic, and the longer that they stay in, you know, the worse the Toxic damage is going to get, you know? And we have ourselves Stealth Rocks, because, you know, you definitely want to have, you know, some utility for a set like this. So, you know, you go for something like Stealth Rocks if you want. If that is if you don't have a Stealth Rock user on your team. Now, if you do have a Stealth Rock user on your team, well, then you go for something like, let's just see, does it get Rapid Spin? Yes, it does. It gets Rapid Spin, baby. And Rapid Spin is a great move to utilize, you know, so that way it clears entry hazards from your side of the field. We have ourselves Icicle Spear, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Icicle Spear is a multi-hit move with 25 power apiece, so it hits 2 to 5 times in one single turn. So it's a great way to break Focus Sashes, great way to break Sturdy, things like that, and it doesn't miss as well, you know? And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Knockoff. Knockoff is a really, really good move to utilize, especially, you know, when you want to be a nuisance to your opponents and knock off their held items. Now, you know, if you don't need knockoff support, then you go for something like Stealth Rocks here. Kind of switch things up a little bit on the fly and, you know, have yourself some entry hazard support, have yourself, you know, entry hazard control with Rapid Spin, and, you know, a way to utilize some entry hazards of your own with Stealth Rocks on a set like this. And last but not least, we take a look at the nature and the investment here. We're going to be running an Impish nature, so that way you get more bang for your buck when it comes to your defense stat, and we're going to be lowering the special attack once again, because we're not going to need to use special attack, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to be maxing things out with the HP and in the defense, and look at that, 372 defense. That is actually pretty damn good, and despite the fact that it has a 4 times weakness to fire and fighting and a 2 times weakness to ground, it resists still a ton of crap. So, I mean, this is definitely, I guess you could say, you know, an effective way to use Alolan Sandslash as well. It just doesn't have to be a sweeper, you know, it can be a defensive tank, things like that. It can be entry hazard support, entry hazard control, utility, things like that. Yeah, like, there's plenty of ways that you can run a set like this. Now, last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we have a pretty interesting setup here going on. We are going to be utilizing Light Clay here, which is an item that extends the duration of moves like Aurora Veil, Light Screen, and Reflect from 5 turns to 8. Now, with a set like this, you also definitely want to run a Hail user, so that way you can utilize Aurora Veil, because what this does, is in order for you to use Aurora Veil effectively, Hail has to be up. If Hail is not up, then Aurora Veil is it's just going to be an empty move. It's not going to work. So you definitely want to have Hail support on your team when it comes to the use of Aurora Veil, you know? And Slush Rush should kind of go without saying, you know, that's going to be the ability of choice. Now, Icicle Spear is definitely going to be the move of choice right here, because, you know, we're focusing more on utility. We're focusing more on being a nuisance. And having something like Icicle Spear, which breaks Focus Sashes and breaks Sturdy, like I said, you know, is definitely going to be the better move of choice, especially given the fact that it hits 2 to 5 times in one turn. So it's going to hit multiple times. So if it manages to hit 5 times, that's base 125 power being coming at you, you know? So coming up next, we have ourselves Knockoff. You know, Knockoff is going to be a good move of choice to use. So that way you'll be able to remove the held items of your opponents, unless of course if they're either Mega Stones or Z Crystals. And last but not least, we have something like Rapid Spin. Rapid Spin is just good all around on a support set like this, so that way you can clear entry hazards from your side of the field. Now, if you want, you know, you can swap out Knockoff for something like Stealth Rocks. You know, if you don't have a Stealth Rock user on your team, go for something like that and, you know, have a little bit more of utility feel to it. Now, last but not least, we take a look at the nature and the Eevee Spread right here. We're going to be running max HP and max speed with the Jolly nature, because what takes place here is what I have in mind is this. I want to be able to, you know, have Hail get up as soon as possible. So lead with something like Auroras or Abomasnow or something like that. And then, you know, either if I switch out or if they go down in, you know, before I bring this guy in, basically, I want to have Hail up by the time I bring this guy in, so that way I can get Aurora Veil up, and, you know, maybe I can, you know, go one step further and support my team more so by giving Stealth Rocks on the field. You know, I can go for Icicle Spear, you know, for damage, Rapid Spin for, you know, entry hazard support, say if the opponent sets up hazards on my side of the field, then Rapid Spin is most definitely going to be a good move of choice as well. Now, with all that being said, before we end the video off right here, I just kind of want to showcase some more moves for you guys that you can use for Alolan Sandslash. So, I mean, like I pointed out earlier, it's got Aqua Tail. You know, it's a really good and interesting move. Now, pro tip is that it actually is a really good move, especially against the likes of Fire and Ground-type Pokemon, which they happen to both score super effective damage against Alolan Sandslash. You go for something like Brick Break if you want, you know, if you want to have Fighting-type coverage. You go for something like Focus Punch, but you want to pair it with something like Substitute, though, so that way you set up a Substitute, and then you can hide behind the Substitute while tightening up your focus with Focus Punch, and the most that the opponent's going to be able to do is be able to break the Substitute, but that's not going to count towards damage towards you and not make the move ineffective, because what happens is that move is still going to happen because Alolan Sandslash didn't get hit directly, you know? You can go for something, let's see what else here. You go for something like Ice Punch, but, I mean, here's the thing, is that, you know, Icicle Crash kind of outclasses Ice Punch, you know? Even Icicle Spear, you know, Icicle Spear outclasses Ice Punch in my opinion, because it just has much more to offer, you know? Better range of damage, and, you know, the fact that it hits multiple times, so it can break through Substitutes, it can break through Focus Sashes, things like that works. You go for something like Leech Life if you want. Now, Leech Life is a pretty interesting move to utilize. It recovers 50% of the damage that you deal with against your opponents. So, I mean, if you want to use something like Leech Life as like a pseudo recovery, then you can. I would more or less utilize it on a set like this, although then again, this has only 4 move slots. I mean, you know, there's whole 4 move slot syndrome, right? So, I mean, it's unfortunate that it doesn't get more move slots for it to utilize its utility, but hey, that's just the way it goes, you know? So, I mean, let's see what else we got going on here. So, you know, you go for something like Poison Jab if you want to have Poison-type coverage if you want, though it really isn't necessary, because the thing is that you got Ice-type moves for Grass and Flying and Ground, and Dragons as well, you know, especially Dragons. Gotta look out for those fuckers, right? Oh, shoot, sorry about that, guys. So you can also go for something like, let's see, what else? Let's see. So Shadow Claw if you want to have consistent Ghost-type damage, and again, Super Fang. You know, Super Fang is, you know, really good if you want to wear down your opponents much quicker, in combination with something like Toxic and then Icicle Spear. Just go back and forth and all that stuff. And with all that being said, I guess that's going to be it for this video. That's going to be it for Alolan Sandslash, and that's going to be it for regular Sandslash. So I want to say thank you guys very much for watching. Sorry about the curse slip up there earlier. You know, trying to keep it clean, trying to keep it PG and all that stuff. So with that being said, I want to say thank you guys very much for watching. And if you enjoyed, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And I'll see you next upload.